Hello and welcome to Inside Politics. My name is Anastasiya Lavrina. Recently, our frontline team returned from Libya, where we filmed a documentary marking 15 years since the fall of Muammar Gaddafi. The film is now available across news platforms. Working on the ground, we spoke directly with decision makers and witnesses to the country's ongoing political transition. Among them, Rabia Abdulrahman, member of the Libyan House of Representatives. Today, we bring you that exclusive interview. How would you describe the moment Libya is living through today, politically, socially, and economically?
طبعاً هو هذا سؤال يعني كبير وواسع.
This is indeed a large and broad question that touches on many different issues and points. Each track, if we were to talk about it, would take a long time, but these tracks are interconnected and influence one another. Socially speaking, we can say that Libyans' relationships over the past year or recent years, especially after the war that took place in Tripoli, have seen significant social improvement. Libyans have begun meeting again and talking to one another, moving away from the earlier problems that existed before 2019. Economically, it is difficult to describe. However, the Libyan citizen has been directly affected by the economic conditions in Libya, considering that we are a rentier state and all citizens depend on state opportunities. There are no real alternatives to state employment opportunities, meaning jobs, positions, or institutions within the Libyan state. The Libyan labor market are still not fully occupied by Libyan citizens who have not been able to fill this space, while foreign citizens, especially from neighboring countries, occupy this part of the Libyan market and are able to create commercial activity for themselves and operate within it. Politically, this is the real problem. There are multiple competing projects. Former regimes are still struggling. The royal system is still trying to return to the scene, and the former regime is also attempting to re-enter the political landscape. As for the current system that emerged after the constitutional declaration and the success of the 2011 revolution, it too is still struggling to establish itself before the people. There is fragmentation among several projects, with no clear path to follow. There are no serious or genuine steps toward political reform, nor a real step toward adopting a political system that Libyans can agree upon and integrate into a single political project that would contribute to stability, security, and everything they aspire to.
Yes, you're absolutely right, especially taking into account the difficulties within the political system. And despite the absence of the large-scale conflict in the country, the recent clashes near Tripoli showed how fragile the security environment here in the country. What do these incidents reveal about the real situation on the ground?
These intermittent clashes that occur from time to time inside Tripoli, whether in its surroundings or anywhere else, have social, political, and economic impacts. These clashes always bring us back to the starting point. After citizens and institutions make progress in resolving security, political, social, or economic issues, sudden clashes emerge with unknown causes and dimensions, especially in or around Tripoli, pushing us backward. This is a real crisis because the concept of security is absent, even among those responsible for providing security. The institutions themselves lack a proper understanding of security. At the same time, citizens' trust in these institutions and groups is fragile and harmful. As soon as citizens begin to feel a sense of trust or stability, they are suddenly confronted with a new war, a new problem, and a new crisis. Unfortunately, these crises gain audiences on social media, where new figures emerge, are given nicknames, and receive widespread attention through posts and discussions. As a result, the space available to citizens shrinks every day, along with the idea of stability. This is why people call for projects and believe that certain individuals or symbols might be able to provide solutions or settlements that help restore stability and rescue them from the recurring state of fear. Every time citizens feel stable, they suddenly find themselves suffering amid armed clashes and conflicts with unknown motives. What is tragic is that these groups fighting each other are state-affiliated entities, not outside the framework of the state. This is a real crisis and a real problem. In my view, the concept of security is absent within these institutions. They believe that security is merely a loud vehicle, a gun in one's pocket, and a blue or green military uniform, and that people must fear them in the streets. That security must be imposed through violence. This is incorrect. We need to deepen the concept of security among armed groups and newly formed security institutions. The reality we have lived as Libyans since 2011. Security leadership, whether within the Ministry of Interior or the Ministry of Defense, has failed to provide radical solutions or properly address this issue. To this day, real leadership within these institutions has not confronted this mentality in a serious and direct way. We are not against these formations, but we are against the behaviors and actions that leave us all stuck in place, unable to move forward or backward, especially during the recent clashes that took place in the last period. Let us be honest and clear. If the Turkish side had not intervened through mediation and attempted to calm the situation and establish communication between the conflicting parties, this conflict would have turned into a civil war. Today, we do not know how such a war could have been stopped. This clearly indicates that we all lack wise and rational leadership, whether political, economic, or security institutions, and even at the level of local communities living amid these recurring political and security conflicts.
Well, you mentioned importance of establishment the constitution as one of the way to stabilize the political and security situation within the Libya. But can you name the main obstacles preventing Libya from consolidating its political institutions? Probably it's legal, it's constitutional, as you said before, security related, or the influence of armed group you mentioned before.
Of course, the obstacles facing the establishment and consolidation of political institutions, or the elimination of chaos and overlapping authorities, stem from major interference and confusion in decision-making. There is significant social and security overlap, rooted in custom and in real legal problems. At times, the House of Representatives passes legislation or a law that is rejected by the High Council of State, creating widespread division, weakening institutions, and reducing their ability to make correct and lawful decisions. As a result, institutions or their leadership resort to improvised measures or temporary solutions to address security, economic, or other issues. The real problem and core obstacle lie in the constitutional dimension. Today, Libya has more than one constitutional reference: the Constitutional Declaration, the Political Agreement, and the Geneva Outcomes. These documents overlap and conflict significantly. Each institution, depending on circumstances and interests, chooses whichever document suits its position, rather than treating them as complementary. Although the relationship between the Constitutional Declaration, the Political Agreement, and the Geneva Outcomes, especially those after 2019, should be complementary, each party seeks to exploit them for its own benefit, either to expand its powers or to make arbitrary decisions that disrupt the political landscape. This creates a real crisis and hinders the progress we seek, whether as civil society, institutional actors, or stakeholders, toward a unified, legal, and constitutional political system that ensures state sustainability, clarifies roles and responsibilities, enforces separation of powers, reduces the influence of armed groups, and limits tribal and regional interference in executive, legislative, and judicial authorities. Today, even the judiciary is unable to exercise its independence. Tribes, armed cities, and influential individuals interfere in judicial decisions, legislative decisions, and even executive decisions. This is a real crisis, compounded by negative regional and international interference. Geopolitical relations are fundamental. No state exists in isolation. We live within a regional, international, and global framework. Libya has Mediterranean neighbors and international relations that should be positive and constructive. Yet within the Libyan scene, states that are friendly to one another end up competing inside Libya. This reflects a real problem in our foreign relations. Today, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs suffers from the same fragmentation as domestic institutions. It struggles to unify its vision on foreign policy, while global developments, conflicts, and international divisions continue to evolve. Major powers are reshaping the world order, and Libya finds itself being tossed between these struggles, uncertain where it should stand, who its allies are, and who its partners should be. At the core of Libya's internal conflict lies centralization and the management of money, resources, and budgets. This is the real Libyan problem, one that creates major internal obstacles and directly affects international relations. These are the issues we must sit down and address to preserve the state, coexist peacefully, create opportunities, and become a stable country free from security, economic, political, geopolitical, and strategic crises.
Well, speaking about the partnership of Libya with other countries. Previously you said that some countries are still willing to have its own presence in Libya to make this country belonging to them, to involve in the domestic issues. But which partnership, let's say, with Europe, with Asia, with the United States, or with Turkey, Libya now consider most strategic for its future development?
شوفي اليوم احنا خلينا نقولوا ليبيا
Today, we can say that Libya needs great diversity in partnerships. Libya borders 6 countries, and geographically, it has diverse land and maritime borders. It occupies a highly strategic and ambitious location. Libya remains largely untapped. It has not yet been properly invested in, nor has it achieved truly strategic international relationships. Today, Libya needs Europe and Turkey, Asia, the United States, all countries, through genuine strategic partnerships based on shared interests, not partnerships where one side benefits at the expense of the other. These partnerships should serve the interests of all sides involved. Libya is vast and rich. Libyans can live there, and people from around the world can invest and benefit from it. Libya can become a major labor market across many sectors: minerals, renewable energy, fossil fuels, tourism, and culture. Libya has a deep historical and cultural legacy with Europe and Turkey, rooted in ancient civilizations. These assets can be invested in just as we can invest in political, strategic, and geopolitical relations that benefit everyone. We need technology transfer and infrastructure partnerships with Europe and Asia, including China. We need energy and investment partnerships with Europe and the United States. We also need practical regional cooperation with Turkey in energy, ports, and security, especially given Turkey's advances in military industries. These are the relationships we aspire to with our international partners, who have been present with us from the very beginning across political, economic, and security tracks. We also need to eliminate the gap fueled by narratives of doubt, betrayal, and hatred, whether directed at Libyans or promoted among Libyans, which erode both foreign and domestic relations. At the same time, we aspire to balanced relations with our neighbors: Egypt, African countries, Tunisia, Algeria, and even neighbors of our neighbors, relations that are security and politically balanced, allowing all of us to achieve stability. We hope that both our neighbors and we can live in security and stability, and that Libya becomes a major gateway for non-oil alternative economies, a source of renewable energy, technology, tourism, and culture, and much more. Libya is vast and full of potential.
And now, one of the most discussed developments in Libya has been the reported killing of Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, the son of Muammar Gaddafi. According to local sources, he was shot by an unidentified gunman in the city of Zintan in what appears to have been a targeted attack. The circumstances remain under investigation. Saif al-Islam had repeatedly signaled his intention to return to politics and run in Libya's presidential elections, positioning himself as a controversial but influential figure. To better understand what may have led to this attack and how it could affect Libya's already fragile political balance, we spoke directly with Libyan on the ground. Here's what he told us.
Actually, what wasn't killing, was association of Saif al-Islam Gaddafi was terrific and shocking for whole Libyan, and especially why is happened right now. Saif Islam, his role is for 15 years is a reconciliation the country and united the country. That's why he's planning. That's why this government, this country to step forward, we have to have a reconciliation for all the tribes in Libya before we do anything politically. So he is trying to unify all the country. Then we go for the election. As we know, a lot of foreign international foreign countries are pushing so hard for the election, and who's I think the planning to get rid of him for the election, because he has his people to vote for him. I think the reason for killing him is not have his people to vote for him, or he's to win the election. And here in the country last few years, 3-4 years, in the we can see the Haftar, Dbeiba, and Saif al-Islam. It's only three, has a population to run for the election. And we believe, as a Libyan, we have a lot of his people to vote for him. He has his own, Gaddafi regime, or, the people who, stay with his dad and still believe his ideas, his work is for the future. So we believe, the people who trying to get rid of him, just because of the election. We know last week, there is the special envoy for Trump. He visited Tripoli and signed a contract for 25 years with the Dbeiba government. We know 3 days, 4 days ago, Saddam Haftar and Ibrahim Dbeiba, has the consult for both of them, met in Paris and divided. For they're talking about a new government, and we can say sharing the new government. And it is all in the media. So the consequences for what happened yesterday, it is now Libya, the country, in two hands, which that hand is of Dbeiba and Haftar. So now the country, I think, already divided by the sold of the wealth of the country for foreign countries. That's the consequences. There is not going to be any revision, any reconciliation right now. Be revenge for Saif al-Islam. I know, these people don't care about what will happen if Saif al-Islam killed. As we saw the scenario a month ago when the chief of staff has been killed in Istanbul by crashes his aircraft. So I think we're going for a very, very narrow, dark, future because of this killing.
Well, as Libya continues to navigate political uncertainty, security risks, and competing interests, the path towards stability remains complex. But understanding the country requires looking beyond the headlines and listening to the voices on the ground. We'll continue following developments closely. You watched Inside Politics. I'm Anastasiya Lavrina, and I see you next time.